Hello, I hope all is well. So, when you think of a money-making method that involves just a processing step, what typically comes to mind? Perhaps something like crushing birds' nests or grinding chocolate dust, maybe making unfinished potions, something that is steady, consistent money, but not exactly that lucrative. Well, I had the idea of a very lucrative processing moneymaker, and that was creating dragon fire shields from Draconic Visage and Anti-Dragon Shield. Now this required level 90 smithing, or in my case 89 with a Dwarven Stout. But this moneymaker I found could be quite lucrative, with the margin between the cost of the Visage and the Dragon Fire Shield being as high as 120k in profit. Now the buy limit is pretty low, just 5 per 4 hours, and there is also 2,000 smithing experience given from creating the Dragon Fire Shield. So this is actually, if you were able to get enough visages, this would be the fastest smithing training method in the game. In fact, if you so desired, you could go from 90 to 99 smithing just by creating just under 3,900 Dragon Fire Shields. Now, given that the Draconic Visage is a pretty low trade margin item, you would either have to substantially overpay for them and cause you to lose a good amount of money, or you would just take a long time to buy them, sell off the shields 5 or 10 at a time. But overall, your in-game time spent getting that smithing level would be a lot lower. I think one of the reasons I was able to be so successful with this is that most people who get Draconic Visage drops are not in the market of really merchanting them. They're just very excited they got the drop and they just kind of throw them on the GE for whatever. And I think very few people either have the skills or think to smith it into a Dragon Fire Shield just with one and then attempt to sell it for more than they would just selling the Visage for. So I was able to capitalize on that by always, for 2 months straight, having offers up for Draconic Visages. Now seems like a really good time to pitch my imaginary sponsor, Generic Mobile Freemium Game. Download now and play totally free. Except you'll find once you get hooked, it's not free at all. In fact, there's a tremendous paywall. You know what? Maybe don't play Generic Mobile Freemium Game and just stick to Runescape instead. Alright, now that that's out of the way, we're just kind of showing here a little bit just some of the buying and selling prices I paid. This was when I first started doing the Visages into Dragon Fire Shields. I wasn't making a huge profit, but I ended up buying 1,000 Anti-Dragon Shields to kind of see overall how many, by the end, how many Dragon Fire Shields I would create. Okay, so at this point we're about 3 minutes into a video that's already much longer than the videos I typically make. How am I going to talk for 5 more minutes about Dragon Fire Shields? Well, I'm not. See, I wasn't satisfied just having 90 smithing and making some Dragon Fire Shields, so I spent a couple weeks grinding prayer from about 72 or 73 all the way up to 90. Why would I get 90 prayer but to put sigils on Blessed Spirit Shields? Alright, I've got all the requirements, so obviously I just use the Blessed Spirit Shield with the sigil. Nope, that does not work, hence the level 85 smithing requirement. Okay, so with 90 prayer and 85 smithing, you can make Spectral, Arcane, and Elysian Spirit Shields with the Blessed Spirit Shield and the appropriate sigil. I also managed to get myself level 90 smithing, entirely making Dragon Fire Shields and then the Spirit Shields. Also went ahead and leveled up to level 91. Alright, so that is 2 full smithing levels entirely off Spirit Shields and Dragon Fire Shields. So how much am I actually making off these Spirit Shields? So I was victimized a little bit by the August market crash, as that's when I started doing this. I was losing a good bit of money on some overnight, but on average I would say I was selling the Spirit Shield for about 1 mil more than I bought the sigil for. Now you have to factor about 700 to 750k for the Blessed Spirit Shield, so every time I would get a sigil in the GE, I was going to make at least about 250 to 300k profit. And there are some examples here where I'm making as much as 1 mil to 1.5 mil profit. Usually the Arcanes I found had a little bit higher profit. I have nowhere near enough money to buy an Elysian. Like, I could sell my whole bank and I would maybe be able to buy like a quarter of an Elysian sigil. So here's where I took some fairly substantial losses just overnight. I would put in an offer using my entire cash stack, which I pretty much liquidated my bank for, just for like a spectral, 1 or 2 spectral sigils, an arcane, and then 10 draconic visages. And by the time I got up in the morning and had them purchased, you know, the shields were worth $1 or $500,000 less than I paid for the sigils. So that happened for a little bit, so I definitely had to be willing to accept some losses. But then I would come and I'd turn it around the next day, and the items would go back up, and I would end up with like a $2 million profit on a single purchase. And the draconic visages are fairly low trade to volume to begin with, but the sigils are extremely low. Just looking it up on the GE website, some of them are sold just a handful a day of each one, and that really makes sense. If the sigil itself isn't a super common merchant item, and you're pretty much just getting them off PVMers, I would imagine there are a lot of people who are trying to flip the spirit shields themselves and not so much the sigils. So I constantly, once I hit that 90 prayer, along with having constant offers in for draconic visages, I 100% of the time had 1 or 2 offers for spectral sigil, and always had one for an arcane. And I would say I was making an average profit of $1.5 to $2 million per day just the entire time I was doing this, just from getting a couple of these offers fulfilled a day, and really not spending that much time in total, actual real time, logging in, smithing the shields, and then posting them back for sale on the GE. Alright, so I mentioned earlier in the video that I bought 1,000 total anti-dragon shields so I could kind of keep track of how many I made. There's 247 left, so I made over 750 dragon fire shields since I started this project. I also kind of want to point out that as I've been doing this for a long time, I think the market is so small for these items that there's not a lot of room for a ton of people to be trying to profit off this. So the profit margin did tighten a little bit in the past couple weeks, and it kind of was down to the point where I was maybe only making 100 or 200K profit per spectral or arcane shield made. But overall, here's how much money I ended with. About 380 mil, that's my entire bank. Given that I started with about 250 mil a little over 2 months ago, that's a 130 mil profit just in a little over 2 months of very passive money making that was almost exclusively done on mobile. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it interesting, and I will see you next time.